Shadcn UI has become incredibly popular, and for good reason. It's been part of my Next.js and Tailwind setup for a long time now, but in a recent project that I did, I think I finally figured out the true potential of Shadcn UI. If you haven't heard of Shadcn UI, then definitely check it out at ui.shadcn.com. It's completely open source, it looks great, and it's completely accessible because it's built on top of Radix UI. But most of all, I think it's changed the game for how UI libraries are distributed now, because Shadcn UI started off the trend for giving you complete control over your components by simply giving you a CLI that integrates the component straight into your codebase. So you can change whatever you want about the component and make it completely your own. If you've used any other library like Mantine or Material, then you know this. It's amazing if you can use the library from start to finish. But if, like in any real client project, you want to integrate just a few components into your existing design and codebase, it's a nightmare. Here's where you might reach for some unstyled components like React Aria or Radix UI, but with developers. Correction, lazy developers. So why would you try and mess around with these components and their primitives when Shadcn has done all the work for us? Shadcn has already given us an ingenious solution to integrating the components straight into your own codebase. In a Next.js project, you can simply run the init command and it'll do absolutely everything for you. It edits your Tailwind configuration as well as your globals.css file, and creates this components.json in the root directory to store a couple of the settings. And that's it, you're done. Now you can just use the add command to add any of the Shadcn components straight into your own codebase inside the components/UI directory. Of course, all of these parameters can be changed, so make sure to check out the docs here. If none of these installation guides are what you're looking for, don't worry. You can still go to any of the components and use the manual installation, which is a good old-fashioned code block right there in the docs, and all you have to do is click on the copy button and paste it directly into wherever you'd like. Remember that this code is now yours. It's in your codebase and your Git history, so feel free to make any changes that you'd like to match your branding and your site styling. In this project that I recently completed, I'm using Shadcn's accordion for the FAQs as well as Shadcn inputs and buttons. But you may have noticed that the rounding is actually a little less than what the default Shadcn rounding is. So as soon as I added a button or an input into my codebase, I just went in and changed the styling from the roundness that is there by default to, I believe, rounded SM. That's okay for small changes like the roundness, because you can always do a global find and replace. But there's no way I'm going into every single component to change every single background color and border color and things like that, right? Well, of course not. That's where theming comes in. Wait, not this theming. This is for one of those cases where you're using Shadcn through and through, and you'd just like to break out of the white and black to add a little bit of an accent color. What I'm talking about is this theming. This is where you can actually go in and change the underlying CSS variables to influence the entire design system. So here's where you take some of your design tokens, let's say from Figma, and put them straight into Shadcn's configuration. And suddenly you have completely bespoke inputs and cards and accordions working exactly how you would set them in Figma. So for this project, I had a background color, a foreground color, a muted background, as well as an accent. Coincidentally, these variables line up quite well with Shadcn's own model of variables. So they also have foreground and background, as well as card foreground and background, which I added the muted color, and then finally your accent color down here. You could consider designing with a similar set of variables to make this copy and paste process simpler. However, if you're not in control of the design, the code is yours. You can always tweak the components to fit your needs. They also have a couple of different configurations for primary, secondary, and other destructive colors, but I didn't find a specific need for them in this project, so I just left them as default. However, it is possible to go quite deep into this rabbit hole of customizing variables. You can also see down here that I've commented out an entire section of dark mode. Shadcn also comes built in with dark mode and a very good tutorial on how to add a theme switcher into your app. So if that's something that you're looking for, then Shadcn has got you covered on that as well. Now there are some small changes that are required. For example, this accordion had an underline which I had to go and remove, but these are quite small changes if you consider the sheer amount of work that Shadcn is saving you by giving you such well-made components right into your code base. And there you have it, open source components that are fully accessible and completely customizable, right from small code adjustments in the specific component file in your own code base to changing variables to influence the entire design system. If you've made it this far, I really appreciate it. Let me know if you're enjoying this shorter and more concise content. In the next few videos, we're going to cover Prismic, which is the CMS that I used, as well as a general project overview of how this project came to be and how I brought it to fruition. If you're interested in that, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you get notified. And until then, keep learning and keep building.